how long the meetings run, when we start the meetings, and as you know, Mary Ann sent us all the Survey Monkey about the meetings. And very strongly, everyone agreed that 4 o'clock does feel like it's a good time to start the meetings. And the majority felt that an hour and a half was a reasonable time frame for the meeting. Not that it has to go an hour and a half, but we're going to try to make sure that it doesn't exceed an hour and a half. And if we can get things done more quickly, then that would be fine. We will try to make sure that we get all of the action items that require a quorum for a vote covered, so that if people have to leave early, they can let us know, but hopefully the majority can stay for the full hour and a half for the meetings. Any questions about that issue, about the meeting times? Yes.
How long does the main PSTA board meet?
When the board itself meets?
Yes.
It meets on the 4th Wednesday of every month, 9 a.m.
How long does the meeting last for?
Usually like 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Usually goes to like 11:30.
All right. Thank you.
Hopefully, only that long.
Yeah. Well, and again, they're interesting to attend, and they're also, fascinating to watch on the internet. I love the fact that we have the video, because I've gone to those board meetings, and then I've also watched them later, and you learn a lot about what the board's priorities are, and what are the things that we have the opportunity to let them know the riders think and feel. Okay, the next action item is the next report is the Forward Pinellas Citizens Advisory Committee, but President said there was not a meeting.
Oh, there was.
Oh, there was. Okay.
Yeah, for February there is a meeting, and there's a meeting for March is Thursday, because they meet the last Thursday of every month. But at the February meeting, something that would be interesting to this committee is the City of Clearwater came and gave us an informational presentation how they updated their building code to kind of just update a lot more density. But one of their focuses was making the US 19 corridor more transit-oriented, kind of allowing it to fill gaps and be denser, but that was part of their strategic vision when they updated their building code. So that was exciting too. So we're hoping to see more development and investment, particularly in that US 19 corridor, for it to be a premier transit corridor for the city. And then everyone else on the committee, we were allowed to bring up topics what we wanted to talk about this year. Everyone agreed that transit, regional transit, different modes should be much higher on the discussion, and we should be seeing more of that from them.
That's interesting. So that was a key issue for our group
Learned
as
a lot
well.
talking to everybody at this committee, actually.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Okay. The first action item is a review of the February meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those, and are there any comments, additions, changes? Yes,
I think there needs to be a correction to the attendance.
yes.
Mr. Mueller was not here.
Not here. I noticed that as well. You were listed as present, and you were not. So that will be amended on the minutes. Any other changes to the minutes?
Yeah, I do have one comment. Mr. Lukasik, I enjoyed his presentation. When we say excellent presentation, I don't know, I just, that word doesn't really fit good with me. I would like a different adjective, and just in general, informative or something, excellent, just, that's it. Yeah, I'm not making a comment on the presentation. It's just excellent. Just didn't seem right to me.
All right, so noted. That can be modified. Any other changes? Then I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes corrected.
I'm making my motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next action item will be a presentation regarding the Clearwater Beach Transit Center interlocal easement agreements. That will be Cassandra.
I was going to make sure this is on, because half the time when I'm the first person that presents, it's off, and then I wonder why it's not flipping. So one of the best parts of my job is being able to talk to our partners and come up with ideas to improve our service with their help. And so this has been a long time coming with the City of Clearwater, and I want to tell you all that the City of Clearwater staff and the council are great to work with, and they've agreed to help us fund this project. That's what the interlocal agreement is about. It's about our agreement to each other about how we'll split the costs of this new facility, as well as split the responsibilities for operating and maintaining different parts of the facility. So we're requesting that you advance this interlocal agreement to the board, and this will also go to the Finance Committee tomorrow as well. Just to give an overview of all of the projects that are happening in Clearwater, because this Clearwater Beach Transit Center is really one part of everything that we're doing to try to advance the issue of getting to the beach, connecting to downtown, and providing service through the City of Clearwater. So I'm going to go through some of these projects so that everybody is on the same playing field as what are all the things that are happening in Clearwater and how does this transit center fit in. So we've been working hard to get a one-seat ride to the beach as much as possible. And as part of this, we started a 7-day-a-week trolley service. We're moving off the 3-day-a-week trolley service, combining some routes to get 7 days a week from Tarpon Springs all the way to the beach. Now the service used to stop at Island Estates, just short of the beach, and as part of that project, we extended it to the beach. We've also looked at how can we pull some of those services that are staying on the beach off to include downtown and look at some of that expansion. Right now we have 7 different trolleys an hour that use some part of the bridge, and getting that one-seat ride as part of that, just extending things a little bit, is critical to us, and that's one of the things that we've been working on. The next thing, and you have this in front of you, is our Spring Break Park and Ride. So this is a pilot project that we're doing with the City of Clearwater, and this is jointly funded with us and the City of Clearwater. We began on February 24th, and we extended the existing routes to make sure that they are connecting to both ends of this connection. We're also looking at how the Suncoast Beach Trolley goes into Park Street and circles around downtown to pick up people at designated parking lots. Did the same thing with the Jolly Trolley South Beach route. So anyone can park at one of these 3 lots in downtown Clearwater for free, get on the trolley for free, and then come back to their car any way that they choose. I think we've seen some good days of people. Our highest ridership day was 50 people. One Saturday. It was a beautiful day, and I think more people will take advantage of this opportunity. If this goes well, we'll do it again next year, or maybe even make the change permanent if it goes very well. We've also been very active in looking at how we get people from the airport to connect to the beach as the #1 beach in America. People coming in to Tampa International Airport, getting to the beach is critical, because once you get to the beach, you don't necessarily need your car, and so why should you have to rent a car for a whole week when you could take a beautiful express bus from the airport? And so this has been our state legislative priority for a couple of years now. We've been up in Tallahassee talking about how do we fund this and make this is a regional issue, this is a statewide economic issue, this is an important expansion of our service. As many of you know, the traffic out to Clearwater Beach is intense this time of year. And one of the things for us to perform better operationally is a capital project of looking at a potential exclusive bus lane on the Causeway Bridge. We've been working with the Florida Department of Transportation on this, and they have looked at the structural integrity of the bridge and believe that we could put one in the raised median. And so the next step would be to take the next phase of that project, which is also a state legislative priority, and we do have sponsorship of this project of $1 million to take a look at the engineering, both at the Senate and the House in Tallahassee. So we're excited to have the potential of moving this project forward. This would really help us if just with the operations we have out there today, this project would help us be so much more efficient in getting out to the beach. We've also started looking at a new intermodal center in downtown Clearwater. We've had a discretionary grant that we have been trying to use for this purpose, and we are going to advance this, and this will be a procurement probably in the next 4 to 6 months, where we will get an engineer on board to help us look at the environmental issues as well as what the design of the new facility would look like. We don't have the construction dollars yet, but at this point we do have the money to make it a shovel-ready project. And so the project that's in front of you today is part of all of these pieces. So we have the trolley operations coming in, we have a future Clearwater Beach to TIA Express bus coming into Clearwater Beach, and we have these other facilities that are going to help us be more operationally efficient. The piece that we're missing is something out at the beach. So we've been looking at how can we have one place where all of our services come together so that people know where to get on and off when they know that they've arrived at the beach. So this would accommodate all of our trolleys that are out there today, as well as the Beach Express. The location that we're looking at, we think we can accommodate about 3 trolleys at any one time, and also give some pedestrian access to the nearby parking lot, so that there's a connection between that first mile, last mile of people trying to get to their final destination on the beach. So this would be an area where the hotel shuttles or Florida free rides can connect with the trolleys so that people can get off the Beach Express with their luggage or connect another way to get to their hotel or other destination. So these are the real images that I wanted to show you. So this location is just east of the traffic circle, just as you come off the second bridge over Mandalay Channel. In front of the Barefoot Bay Hotel, there's a city-owned parking lot right here. And these blue squares are buses. And then the canopy would be along the sidewalk. We have 2 options that we're looking at that we'll put into our final bid documents. There will be a canopy all the way across, and also maybe a smaller option to start, so as we start to see the costs come in, we can make something that fits within our current budget. And then the pedestrian access down to the parking lot, which is where other services could come in and connect. We do have a design concept right now, and you'll notice this is different than everything else that we've done in the county. It's not even our regular beautiful new shelters. This is going to be iconic to the beach. The city of Clearwater already has similar canopy structures, and they're familiar with doing these types of shade structures, but it's also makes it noticeable and a nice way to come into Clearwater Beach and welcome people to the beach with transit. We're also talking to the city about some other things that they're going to do in the agreement. I'll get to those in just a minute. But our goal is to have this built by spring break of next year. We've been talking about this with the city for quite some time, and we think at this point we have a good design for the majority of the facility, with the exception of the canopy. We would bring this to the board approval for the partnership with the city this month, and then go through the procurement process after that with their approval of the contract in June. And then we would be able to begin construction sometime soon after that, with an ultimate goal of being done by spring break, but an aspirational goal of being done by the end of the year. We think that the cost between The vertical and the horizontal construction would be about $500,000. The city has agreed to fund half of that, up to $250,000. And I think it's because we've been working with them and we want to have something that is as nice as possible for the passengers out at Clearwater Beach. We will manage the design and the construction, as you can see in the interlocal agreement, and we'd be responsible for all of the hardscape. The next part is where the other part of the partnership comes in. The city would take care of the landscaping, which would be great for us. They're already out there taking care of the landscaping that's out there now. They would also install and maintain the landscaping out for this new facility. They would also put in a queue jump. This would be the first queue jump that we have in Pinellas County. And what that means, if you're familiar with the area out there, there's a metering light. So there's a traffic light out there that just stops traffic if the traffic circle gets backed up. The city traffic engineers can arrange that so that the buses will be able to pull out first. So if they stop the traffic there, the buses will be able to get ahead of the traffic. So again, between the busway that we've talked about on the bridge and treatments, smaller treatments like this, the bus can gain some additional time in the operations if we put these kinds of facilities in. They've also agreed to expediting the permitting, to working with law enforcement, as well as some supplemental maintenance. So especially this time of year when there's lots of people out there going out and helping us with the maintenance and any trash collection and things like that. In addition to that, they're already out there for storm events, so they're taking down other canopies that are on Beach Walk. They would be trained to take this one down as well in case of a storm event so that we can maintain the integrity of the structure itself in case of high winds. So this is more than just a financial partnership. This is a true operational partnership, and that's what the interlocal agreement really documents. So I will take your questions, but again, the action item before you today is to approve the interlocal agreement for advancement to the board.
Any questions? If there are no questions, then I will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation going to the board.
Second.
You want a second?
You cannot make the motion, so somebody has to make the motion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Are you-
I'll make the motion. And I
Okay, so
second.
Elizabeth's making the motion, Teresa second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. At this point, I would like to ask Brad to speak. He has a couple of items, and there's one that I forgot on my notes relative to some of the things that happened at the last board meeting, so. Thank you, Brad.
Okay, so thank you, guys. Sorry I missed your last meeting. The board meeting last month was dominated by one topic, the award of our competitive contract for the trolley services to Clearwater Beach and to northern Pinellas County. The service, not all, but many of the trolley services that we operate on Clearwater Beach, and then the trolley that we operate up to Tarpon Springs and Dunedin, is through a contract, through a separate entity called the Jolly Trolley. They're a nonprofit that has been in existence for 30 years in Clearwater. It's kind of funny, unlike DART, and unlike almost every other sort of contract that PSTA has, the Jolly Trolley contract has never been competitively procured ever since its beginning. 40 years ago, it was a private profit-making company on Clearwater Beach. And then when they started losing money, like every transit system in the United States started doing, they started getting what they called a grant from the city of Clearwater to start, and then ultimately they started getting grants from both PSTA and Clearwater, to the tune of now they're just like all the rest of PSTA services, that 70-some% of their their expenses come from PSTA subsidizing them. They're just like another route. So at the board's direction, we did do a procurement and developed a competitive procurement, and ultimately made a recommendation based largely on cost, but other factors, to make a recommendation that the management of that trolley be awarded to a company called First Transit. This would not change the routes, this wouldn't change the vehicle. Well, First Transit had proposed all new trolleys, all new trolley vehicles. Nothing about the service will really change other than the management. The drivers were proposed to be transitioned over to the new company without at the same pay. But regardless, since the Jolly Trolley has a board of directors and has such a long-standing history in the city of Clearwater, the room downstairs at PSTA was packed with 75 people wearing red shirts that all came from Clearwater to support keeping the contract with this entity called the Jolly Trolley. And ultimately, after close to 4 hours, you asked how long a PSTA meeting was. Well, that one went till 1:30 p.m. Thanks to almost 4 hours worth of public testimony by the Jolly Trolley or Clearwater folks, the board voted unanimously to instead award another contract to the Jolly Trolley, because the people had spoken, or many people had spoken. So we will be awarding the contract to the Jolly Trolley. The other company, First Transit, has filed a protest, and so PSTA has very prescribed rules that we follow when a company protests, and this happens from time to time. You know, winners never protest, that I've noticed, but other guys do protest, and so we're responding to that. But that's really what happened at the last board meeting, and we thought we'd just keep you updated on what's going on there. We also awarded, in a good news story, we awarded our contract for 2 electric buses, which I think you saw pictures of, and that went very successfully. They actually had one of the electric buses on display after the meeting. And after that long 4-hour Jolly Trolley discussion, the vendors for the bus companies, there was a couple different vendors in the audience, and the company BYD had their people there. They supposedly, I heard afterwards, they were sweating bullets. They were, oh my gosh, they're never going to approve our buses, and we have parked out front. So they were like waiting to speed away and hide the bus somewhere if it didn't get approved. But anyway, they approved it. Speaking of board meetings, speaking of an idea that some of our folks from our marketing department got, we would like to start maybe what we hope to be a continuing process where we start the meetings that, again, as I mentioned earlier, start at 9 o'clock in the morning with some kind of positive message of some sort to hopefully get folks that are coming to the meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning into a mood to be supportive of public transportation. Not necessarily being hit in the face with 75 angry red Clearwaterians is the way to start off your morning, even before you've had your coffee. So we're gonna start this this coming month with a very positive story that I'm gonna ask Ross to just give you the details of. But I'd like to ask if some of you track members are interested in coming and speaking and participating in this little opening. It would be at the very beginning event. I think that would be great. Take it away, Ross.
So what Brad is talking about, just so you know who I am, I'm Ross Silvers. I'm the mobility manager here at PSTA, and as such manager over our DART program, for those who may not know me. So for those who may recall from the past, we have a new contract for CareRide for DART, and that went to CareRide to provide all the service as of October 1st of 2016. Before that, we had separated it out. So before then, the ambulatory service went to Yellow Cab, and those who needed to travel within their wheelchair were with Care Ride. And so back in the day, we used to get numerous complaints a day, particularly from the folks who were on the Yellow Cab ambulatory service about late trips, not sure when the ride is going to come, having to wait extensive time outside, people getting sunburned, they were waiting outside so long. So while the majority of people were getting good service, there were these examples that kept coming up of problems, and we did a lot of things to try and work on it, and it's still remained. So the new contract went to Care Ride, and our goal here is to just kind of give the board a 6 months in update on how it's going. And what I can tell you, want to know how it's going? You want to know what I hear every day? That's what I hear every day. I hear quiet. And you know what the quiet means? It's going great. So we get every month, we get more compliments about the service for Care Ride than we do complaints. We get maybe 2 valid complaints a month. That's when we're providing up to 1,200 trips a day through Care Ride. So they're doing a great job. So we just want to tell them it's PSTA's largest contract. And so, the board is good board members, right? They're focused on the money and fiscally responsible, how it's being spent. So we want to try and make it a little bit to humanize the value of that investment that they're making in the service. And so we'd love to have a couple of people come and just speak for 30 seconds about what does it mean to have reliable, quality service available for you as an ADA paratransit customer. So if it's something you're able, willing to do, if you can just maybe let Mary Ann or myself know, the meeting is next Wednesday at 9 a.m. And then, we can add some other people who want to. It's not a long thing. It's just to give people a sense of what it means to the community. Any questions? Okay.
Thanks.
If I can just make one last little update, I want to give a shout out and thanks to Tanya on the track committee for alerting me, and then also I think speaking to some of her council members or commissioners from the city of Largo. Largo voted 3 weeks ago, in what I feel was a rather uninformed way. They voted unanimously to ask PSTA to remove 7 bus shelters from the city of Largo, from 7 bus stops in the city of Largo. And these are 7 shelters that have advertising on them. But thanks to some suggestions by Tanya and some discussions since the vote in Largo, we're hopeful, and we've gotten some good communication, that we won't have to actually remove the shelters. To my knowledge, PSTA has never removed a shelter anywhere in the history of PSTA, and one that's already there, that's not costing any money, it actually costs us money to take it down, a shelter that's there. We will remove the advertising. It seems like the major concern by the mayor and some others is the advertising that is in the shelters. But we're hopeful that we won't have to actually remove the shelters and have people out in the rain and sun just stand there. With the potential of maybe even making the shelters that are there without the ads, maybe even potentially into art projects, or look even better than they already do today. So I think it's going to be a positive story that so far wasn't positive, but I think we can make it more positive. So thank you.
You're welcome. And to touch on that, the mural grant program, that they're voting on that tonight, and I sent an email to Mayor Brown and to a couple of the commissioners that maybe this is an opportunity as well, that we could use the grant money, since it would be art murals, and we're talking about wrapping, the utility boxes, that maybe we could include the bus shelters for underwriting, so nobody has to, be out of pocket. Then the city would in turn still pay for it, but then they would get something happier, prettier than the advertising. So, and Woody seemed to be very receptive to it.
Great. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have signs in our department that say "Save the 7."
I was as soon as I saw the agenda, I immediately emailed him, and I actually called Mayor Brown, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, seriously, why?
Right.
And it started a whole long conversation, so.
Great, well, that's what.
Sorry to
the
message you so
response
late.
was, too, in my house.
I had two quick things that I wanted to, well, because a couple of people had asked me, when you talked earlier about the Jolly Trolley, we did not cover that here in our meeting before it went to the board, and my understanding from Cassandra is it had to do with the timing of it. I don't know if you or Cassandra want to say why it was not presented to us before it went to the board.
Yeah, well, number one, nobody had, none of the PSTA staff or anyone that was on the selection committee from the cities knew in advance that this was going to be such a big thing. You know, we have a lot of contracts, and any contract the PSTA awards over $100,000 has to go to the PSTA board. Most contracts don't come before the track committee, and since this was a management contract, and we weren't changing the service in any way, it didn't occur to us to. I'm sorry to bring it to track.
Mm-hmm.
We did get word on the Friday before the board meeting, after the track meeting was over, and after the PSTA committee, the finance committee, which met, also did review it and unanimously recommended it. Nobody came to the meeting, and then on about Friday before the board meeting, we started seeing some emails flying around that they were going to try to send some people, but then they all came. But in the future, it's mindful, you know, that these kind of things, when in doubt, we will bring it to your committee.
Yeah, no, I was certain there was a good reason too. I was asked by a couple of people, because it was when we hear about things in the news, it's like, you know, it's like, wait, I thought I would have known about it. So that's good. No, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Okay, thank you for the time. The next item then is the information item, which is, the first item is the summary of our track initiatives. And, oh good, that is what we did after our last meeting, you know, we had a lot of us had given our notes about what we saw as our priorities for our track committee, what were the ideas that had the greatest importance to us. And we took those ideas, and between Cassandra and Marianne and I, we, you know, sort of collated them together and talked about them and went back and forth, and put them into a combination of things that we call like primary themes and secondary themes. Oh, thank you. How do I advance it? I always that one. Okay, thank you. And the primary themes that we saw as being, that we heard from you all, is regionalism, which again, what Carson was just saying too from the Forward Pinellas as well. A lot of interest in this group. The issue of safe access to bus stops. That's, everyone knows that's one of my hot button issues, but then I heard several of you talking about the cars racing by us at the bus stops and so forth. And then the third issue we saw is the issue of increasing public art. And that comes back to what Tanya had brought up, and there was a lot of interest in that. And again, something we would like to have some involvement with as track committee members. The secondary themes we saw is we heard a lot of you talking about being the voice of the rider. We wanted the board to know that, we wanted the media to know that, we wanted the world to know that the riders have voices, and that riders are in fact a very viable part of our community. And so we saw that as, I hate to call that a secondary issue, because that's sort of at the basis of it all, but it's something that can touch on all the other issues as well. There was some talk about ways in which we could be ambassadors to the community of the ridership, and then the idea of creating, participating in different focus groups and working groups relative to the work that PSTA would be doing. In terms of regionalism, and when I was talking with Cassandra, a lot of what I'm showing right here, I was asking, well, what do we see as being like action items that we as a committee are going to do? And what she was saying is really, this is some of the guidance that we are giving to PSTA so that they can incorporate, knowing this is what we as the track want to have addressed, that they will continue to look for ways in which programs can involve us, or that they can bring educational programs to us to let us know more about what's going on. So the issue of the PSTA HART collaboration, and then regional transit feasibility programs, joint efforts to improve the transit systems in all of the surrounding counties. Safe access to bus stops, that is, again, a couple of different issues. There are ways, we look for ways in which we as members can work with PSTA to ensure that future plans include safe design and placement of the bus stops. Working with the MPO, Forward Pinellas, to, as they present their transfer suitability analysis, that they can actually come and present that to us. And again, so that our board knows that this is something that's an issue for us as riders. And then the third primary theme, the issue of public art. And there are some nice attractive pictures that Mary Ann was able to find of some of the places where they have incorporated art into the bus stops. And as Tanya was saying, it really helps reduce clutter. It gets people's involvement. They treat those shelters better. There's a sense of community and so on. In terms of the secondary themes, the voice of the rider. That first point, when I talked with Cassandra about this, she was interested in working with us on this too, is the idea of maybe we can start creating some position papers from us as the board, as the track, to go to the board and say that we as the riders have this point of view about what we would like to see the board understand riders want and need. What is the role of having safe access to bus stops? What is the role of having art in bus stops? Not getting rid of, so that like you said, the board in Largo didn't realize just how big an issue that is. When you get rid of shelters for riders, that is a big deal, and the value to us of having attractive ones. And so we want to encourage attendance of our members and have public comment at the PSTA board, finance, planning, and executive committee meetings as well. And then again, we will continue as a track to invite board members to come to our meetings too. And then again, a secondary thing, we talked about track members as ambassadors of it, and in workplaces, communities, and so on, as another way in which we can get our voice be heard. So were there any comments or questions or thoughts about what we've put together? Do you feel that we addressed in general, what we all talked about? I mean, there were certainly pieces of this that...
Oh, there's another slide.
Excuse me, you're right. The working group, focus group participation. We are invited to a rider focus group before the next meeting here, which will deal with the How to Ride guide. We had talked about seeing that. Once it's published, we can distribute the ride guide in our communities and during our daily commutes as well.
Yes, everyone's going to receive an email from the Public Engagement Department. It will be probably 2 to 3 p.m. before a track meeting, but it's not a public meeting. It's just a working group with other people.
Any other thoughts, comments that you have? If as you look through this, if you have any other thoughts, please send them to Mary Ann. Cassandra and Mary Ann and I have now, each month after the meeting, we end up talking about what was covered and how we want to incorporate some of these things into future meetings. And so your input is critical to what we're doing. It is very important that all of your voices be heard.
Okay. I think that idea about the ambassadors is a real good one. I ran it, coming here today, at the bus stop, I took to connect to it, and there was a lady there who works at Publix and needs to go to the Connect, but had no idea how it worked. And she was, I explained to her how it worked, and she's really excited. She's going to start using it. And there's a lot of issues like that could be addressed in a meeting with, some kind of civic group or retirement homes, scout meetings,
Yeah.
Doesn't PSTA do that already, where you can send people to, like, I think I've been told
We do.
that, yeah.
We have 2 employees that do that full-time, and they are busy with that full-time. But, yeah, I mean, adding more ambassadors is a great thing.
Or even inviting
Thank
us
you.
to when they're giving those presentations, that, here's some writers to corroborate what we're saying, type of thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Using you guys as props. Yeah.
Got it.
As ambassadors to tell them.
One of the things that I hear so much from people about the bus company when I talk about it is that the viability of it is difficult. Like you said, Brett, there's a lot of routes that are 1 hour apart, headway. And it's difficult to ride the bus when you have that kind of thing. So I think when we've done studies on it, we found that people respond that they are interested in riding the bus. And if we could talk to people and say, we appreciate it, we want you to ride the bus, but you need to contact your local councilman, county supervisor, and put a bug in your ear, because they're the ones that are holding the purse strings. That's why PSTA doesn't expand their service. They don't have the money.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
the local
probably
government-
you saw, and in my emails I tried to send out some links, but recently the Tampa Bay Times has been writing a number of stories about just that they're generally critical of the size or the scope of the transit system, both here and in Tampa. Point out that we're doing what we can with the money we've got, but I mean, in order to have the buses run more frequently, we need more buses and we need more drivers and pay those drivers, which both require more money. So, yeah, the politicians generally that we speak to certainly saw those articles, and there's been a number of meetings or references to those articles. And continually, the Times has continued to sort of harp on that. That's good. Yeah, anytime you are involved with any of the cities in Pinellas County, or even over in Hillsborough, mention it.
Yeah.
That's how we saved 7 bus shelters in Largo.
There you go, yeah.
Is it possible for a track member to go to one of these council meetings and represent themselves as a track member and present that?
Yeah.
That needs more funding? You won't get jailed or anything?
I will disavow any knowledge of your presence. No, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
With the city of Largo, I know specifically when every commission meeting starts, there's citizens comment, and you get 3 minutes to speak, and you can talk about whatever you want. So, every single commission meeting, I give them 3 minutes of art in their ear. But it's the first and third Tuesdays of the month for the city of Largo, and I'm not really familiar with the other municipalities, but I know Safety Harbor's Mondays or something like that.
If
Are
a
you
track,
in Largo?
well, I'm on the border of it. I live in unincorporated Clearwater, which I'm so close to Largo that I can
Okay.
spit at.
And you don't have to be a resident.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a resident. You can
I was
just be
thinking
a
about the
person.
Clearwater, not city council, but Pinellas County Commission. that's
Yeah,
right.
County Commission, City of Clearwater, Largo Commission.
If we were to go to one of those meetings, would we be able to get more than 3 minutes because we represent riders of PSTA?
As a group, as an organization.
Yeah, we're not just
You
somebody.
can
for the
get
public.
5 minutes for citizens comment at the city of Largo if you're representing an organization.
Oh, okay.
Each city has their own different rules on that. I mean, sometimes if we work with the city in advance, you can get like a special time on the agenda. But you don't necessarily need that. Like Tiny's saying, you can just do 3 minutes.
And that's the issue, is if you say I'm a citizen that sits on track and I'm representing me, a lot of times I would say I'm a citizen and I'm my condo board president. And so are you speaking for your entire condo? No, but I am the president, and my opinion is this, or I sit on track and my experience is this. So you bring the authority of the track, the fact that you're sitting here makes you one of, 12 people in the county. But when you can't say, well, track had a vote, or I'm representing track. And now if you're gonna do that, we can get on the agenda, and now what, we probably have to have a vote, or at least some kind of consensus of what you're gonna say, because you'd be representing us. I think saying I sit on track gives you a little more heft, you know? And then just say whatever you feel like. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor.
Whoops. The other thing, if I can mention this, is that in addition to the funding, a lot of times people are real concerned because there's no, like, inter-regional. You can't go from Pinellas to Hillsborough or Pasco or Manatee, with any kind of ease. And I know that you've mentioned this before, they've talked about it, that when you go to get funding from the federal government or the state, they say, well, you're only Pinellas County, you're not the Tampa Bay region. And we would want to fund the Tampa Bay region.
Speaking of which,
Speaking
nice
of.
segue.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
exactly.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
The next item is Cassandra talking about.
Regionalism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
PSTA hard
Yeah.
coordination.
So this was on your list of things that you wanted to hear about, and so when we spoke with Gloria about how we would present this particular item, there's almost too much going on to have a long presentation after all the other presentations. In fact, we really want to spend another 10 minutes just talking and with you listening. I think we'd rather have a conversation, so we thought we'd set this agenda item up as a Q&A more than just us giving a presentation, so we could have a conversation about this, because I think for a few of you, you've come up to me after the meetings and asked some questions about what's happening, and if you like this format, we can try to do it again with some other things. If you hate it, let me know, and we will never do it again. So I put into your packet a few things about what we're doing on the regional level. A couple of people have asked me about our partnership and our collaboration with HART. And so that memorandum of understanding is in here. And just from a staff perspective, we call HART all the time. We have different counterparts at the agency, and we'll check in with them about if they have examples of things that they've done or things that they're thinking about. And so when we have an initiative that we want to push, we always think of it as, well, how do we give this initiative a boost? Can we do it regionally? And the first call is always to HART. So the coordination that we've done with them was documented in this memorandum of understanding, and it lets us have a little guide of things that we said we were going to do. One of the biggest things that we're doing right now, which I know you're familiar with, is the Flamingo Fairs. So this is probably our single biggest project at this time. We're looking at how do we move our own agency forward with smart cards and mobile apps, and then how do we do it even better with a regional partner. And so HART is leading that particular project with the entire Tampa Bay area, and we've included Pasco and Hernando and Citrus, Sarasota, and Polk. Some counties like Manatee have opted out for the moment just to see how things go with our own program. And we're moving forward with that. That is a program that has been funded partially by the Florida Department of Transportation. I think us going together with HART has really helped our applications. We recently put in another grant application to advance that one step further. So this is your ticketing side of it. But where the industry is going is looking at one app for your trip planning and your ticketing and your real time. So it's all in one place, and not just for buses, but for ferries and bike share and the streetcar and, you know, so all of those modes, putting it all together in one place so that you could say, I don't have my own personal car today, how am I gonna get around? And you can say, well, I'll take the ferry over to Tampa, and I will take the Heart in Towner to downtown to the University of Tampa, and I will get a bike to ride on the Riverwalk, and then I will come back and get my Central Avenue trolley from the ferry dock in downtown St. Pete. I mean, so you can do all of that, and so getting to that point, we've put in a new application to the Department of Transportation to take our regional app to the next level. So those are some of the projects that we're thinking about doing with them, more on the operational side. And we have some other things that we're joint purchases that we'll do together. We've done fuel purchases in the past, bus purchases in the past, and so we put all of that into our MOU. There is a project that Hart is leading on a regional level, and this is the Regional Transit Feasibility Plan. This has come out of the Transportation Management Area Leadership Group, which is a long way of saying 3 MPOs coming together. So the Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas MPOs send representatives to the TMA Leadership Group every 2 months. And they really wanted to look at let's take another look at what the vision is for the region and how we start to collaborate on those major projects that we're going to go ask for federal dollars. And so we've included for you the first technical bulletin out of that work. The work is being sponsored by the department, but it is being led by Hart. Hart is managing that project. You'll notice in there that the consultant has found a number of studies that have been done about the region, and they've counted them up as 55. There's only one project out of that 55 that has made it to the federal New Starts program entry, or what they call now their Capital Investment Grant program. And that project is the Central Avenue BRT. So as we move forward with this project and looking at from a regional perspective, how would we support each other's project? Hart is they're up in Washington today, and they're talking about the Central Avenue BRT. Because if that gets funded, then the next project can get funded. And so the next project is probably something out of this study. There's still the individual funding sources, but it helps us, if we look at the technical work from a regional perspective, we can start to support each other's projects so we're not competing against each other, but competing with each other, against others. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done on this project yet. The technical team is just starting to come back with some of the early data about what are the 5 major corridors in the region. The next step would be to look at what are the options for modes in those corridors. We are helping out with that project by having staff present the information to the committees. And so as we bring it to the planning committee, we'll also bring it to you. So as we start to get answers out of that project, but they're really still in the early stages of the data side of the project. So you'll definitely hear more about that in the future. I know there's other work that we're doing regionally, but I think that those are the major things that we're putting our efforts into. I think that we've become a lot more focused on the region over the last few years. and I think it's to our advantage overall. So I know you might have some questions about other things that you might have heard or anything that I've said. We'll bring back the transit feasibility study as it sort of evolves. It's not quite ready for presentation just yet. I think they're gonna bring something to the TMA in April, early April, and then we'll bring it to you. So maybe next month we'll have something to show.
Oh, Cassandra, I just wanted to add that you asked me to send the survey for the transit feasibility study
Oh,
to
right.
everyone. Did anyone take the survey? Any comments on it? I mean, what did you think about it?
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good questions.
So anytime they have some public engagement, we'll make sure that you guys get notice of that. I know Dave and Carson are gonna, the careful guys, they might dominate the questions.
First off, thanks. Great, good information. And whenever I think of regionalism, of course, I think of Pinellas and Hillsborough. I live up in North County, and so my logical question, of course, is there, do you know anything that's going on between Pinellas and Pasco? And for that matter, just as a sidelight, Pasco and Hillsborough and Polk? Because I read a little bit about that stuff. When we were doing Greenlight, I know they lost theirs. They were trying to run buses to USF, and I see the line across from Wesley Chapel to Newport Richey. Do you know anything about that kind of stuff? Is it solid? Is it tentative? Is it pipe dreams? Is it a zero, a non-starter? Are they just lines on a board?
So for Pasco County, their major travel patterns are down.
Exactly.
I mean, they're coming south, both into Pinellas and into Hillsborough. And when we look at their major travel corridors are US 19 and 5456.
Right.
So 5456 has been a long time focus of Pasco County, and they are in the middle of a study to look at what kind of transit modes are they going to serve that corridor with. The challenge with that corridor is the travel pattern is not
Right.
east-west across the county. It's partially, sort of from, Holiday, it's east and then down, and then from Wesley Chapel, it's, a little bit east or west, and then south. So people are using portions of the 54-56 corridor. So that's what's happening in Pasco. Pasco's been growing. Their ridership has been growing. They've been increasing the number of routes they have. I think they said 4 new routes right now, and they have a new interim director. So I think
I
will
didn't
bring
know
a
that.
lot of energy to their transit program up there. I think from the regional project perspective, it's really that Wesley Chapel, USF, bless you,
Okay.
to downtown Tampa connection, which is their primary. They really have 3 ways to get south. That's at 19, the Suncoast, Veterans, and then
41?
well, 41, but more like 275, 75 and 275.
I just really know, just for our perspective, them changing at the Publix at 19 and Target. I mean, that's, you run the one bus, you get off, you get on the other, right? I mean, has there been any effort, for instance, to coordinate that with a straight through a 19X or something like that, or like a 200X going to Marion Transit, that kind of stuff? That's,
In some of our vision plans, we've talked about actually using McMullen Booth as that connection, so people would park and ride in North Pinellas or Southern Pasco.
yeah,
and then
Trinity
and
up
then
there,
come down.
yeah, Seven Springs.
Yeah, but that, in all of our vision plans, the regional express is on McMullen Booth.
And that was my original question, was when we talk about that stuff sounds like it is so vapor. We're at very tentative, wouldn't it be great? What do you guys think?
Well, and that's true because
Okay.
the heaviest routes or the most likely projects, if those don't get off the ground, then those farther out projects never seem to happen.
Okay.
So that's why it's so important for the Central Avenue BRT, as the first one in the CIG program
Yep.
at the federal level, once that moves forward, then you can have the next thing. If we don't start to get things done, then we'll never get to the end.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so
One
much.
step at a time.
Good insight, thank you.
It's funny that he mentioned a 19X, because I was going to talk to you either on the side or bring it up if I could. I had a ride from Clearwater Mall all the way to Grand Central Station
Bless you.
on a Friday. I felt like a sardine as we passed through Pinellas Park because those buses were packed. I mean, I felt like I was back in New York. Have you ever given, I was thinking, I'm like, God, I wish I had Cassandra's email. I'm going to email her right now. I mean, like a bus that just went Clearwater Mall, and then the next stop was the Largo Transit Center, and then the next stop was Pinellas Park Mall, and it just made only major stops, so that way, you know, it could move a little faster down 19 instead of stopping at every single stop down US 19.
We have, in our current vision plan, we have a 19 Rapid,
Okay.
which is different than an Express. So an Express usually has, you know, a few stops beginning, a few stops at the end, and you know, just travel in between.
Mhm.
With this would be like a limited stop service, much like what we're doing for Central Avenue
Okay.
or the BRT project in St. Pete. So why we call it a rapid instead of a BRT is because would not likely have an exclusive lane.
Right.
So, and it would not likely have those same treatments, technology treatments, but what it would have is the elimination of stops so that you just move faster in general.
Okay.
So that is, the 19 corridor is one of what we consider our core routes.
Mhm.
And so there is plans, it was not, the first one out of the gate, of course, is Central Avenue,
Mhm.
but the other routes in that core group are the 18, the 52, the 59, the 4.
Yeah.
You know, so the 1934
So it's
combo
on
kind
the,
of-
it's been talked about.
It's
okay.
on the, it's one of our 6 core routes,
Yeah.
yes.
In the memorandum of understanding, there's a section that talks about PSTA and HART endeavoring to identify at least 2 functional areas for possible functional accommodation. I was just wondering if you could explain more what that might look like. Is that just West Shore and Gateway? Is that what you're talking about? Or?
No, it's more on the operational side. So are there things like, should we have a single joint IT department? Should we have a single joint procurement department? Should we have a single joint planning department? You know, those are options for us to talk about where, you know, does it make sense? And in some cases it might, and in some cases it doesn't. And that's more of the exploration of, can we be more efficient, or can we save money? And those are 2 different things. They usually, sometimes they come together, but can we do that? And so that with the functional areas, more administrative.
I didn't read the info item very well. I didn't realize we were gonna have a Q&A session, or else I would have gone back and looked at the article that I'm gonna reference right now. Is Senator Latvala was introducing legislation, and what worried me, kind of briefly looking at it, is that the governor was gonna be appointing people to this this regional board. Do you know anything about that?
So the Senator Latvala has proposed, maybe Brad's had a number of conversations about this today, actually, so maybe he can shed some light on it too. But the proposed bill is to look at the Tampa Bay Regional Transportation Authority, or TBARTA, in kind of a new way, and shrink it down to 4 counties and make it more responsible for transit operations on a regional scale. So that was the board that you're describing, of where did have a representative from the different counties, has representatives from PSTA, from HART, does have an appointee for I think the Speaker of the House, maybe the Senate President on the board. So it's a restructuring of the TBARTA board. My interpretation of the legislation is that it while it changes the board and it changes the geography of TBARTA, it doesn't necessarily change their powers, and it doesn't change their funding sources. So even if they are designed to be more responsible for regional services, they still have no budget to do that. And I don't know what other conversations you've had about that or analysis you've done.
I was at the St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce this morning, and this was a discussion item. This morning, it did pass out of some kind of house side committee unanimously, but it included an amendment that was requested by the city of St. Petersburg and the city of Tampa, and that was approved unanimously to strike out some of the governor or the Senate and the House appointee to the board members, and replace them with the mayor of Tampa and the mayor of St. Pete, two biggest cities. So St. Pete and Tampa are back on. They were all riled up about that. They're back on. I also heard that Manatee County, it was going to be just Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco. That was the original Senator Ballot bill, but now Manatee's back in, and now I heard Hernando is back in. So
Why?
by the end of this thing, it might just be back to what T-Bar is today. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's they were talking this morning that,
All good intentions.
well, they're making all these, this bill would look like it might pass this year in some form to rearrange the governance of this T-BARTA group, but then worry about the money to pay for it all and to give them money next year, which is political punting that never seems to happen. But so it remains to be seen. But they talked to this morning at least that it's like a two-year process. This is the start. I'm sorry, I just wasted 4 minutes of your time talking about this thing.
I think it helps all of us.
It's very interesting to watch this dynamic of, we know we need to do things regionally, and we know that we need to put some kind of structure into it, but not always knowing what the right structure is. And I think, there are great intentions of trying to solidify that on a regional level. It just has to come. It has to come with funding. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything more than what they can do today.
Gazin, question. When you're talking about all these regional programs, I mean, we are, again, a ridership group.
Yes.
And, when we talked about, the ridership group for, Forward, or the citizens group for Forward Pinellas, where in this whole equation does riders' needs or rider education too? Because I think a lot of us don't use it regionally right now, because, like I know we were talking, Carson takes the bus to Tampa but doesn't have any call to use a lot of the Hillsborough services. A lot of us don't even think to use Hillsborough. Where do the voices of the riders come into this, the whole planning process?
For a regional level, I think they're looking to us to get folks engaged in that discussion. They do a lot of travel demand surveys, so they'll do origin and destination surveys for general travel in order to inform the technical work. I think that gives us a sense of where the ridership could be. People generally do not travel far for their basic needs. So when we look at home to school or home to shopping, it's usually very close. People don't go very far from their house. It's the work trip that really drives people to go a little bit further. So that when we look at the travel demand model and we look at the travel demand surveys that FDOT does every few years, it is that work trip that goes a little further out. And so the other thing that we'll look at for regional services is how do we get to those regional activity centers that have a lot of employment. So there is an element that is the current rider, but when you're talking about a future service, we have to rely on a lot of is there enough demand, overall demand in the corridor? But we'll make sure that you guys get engaged on this regional project so that you can tell them what you think. There is also, for T-BARTA, they do have a citizens advisory committee. And I honestly, I don't know who the Pinellas representative is right now.
Any other questions for Cassandra?
Did you, was this good?
Oh, I think it was, I'd love to hear it on an ongoing basis. I don't know, how does everyone else feel about that?
And did you like the more question and answer format as opposed to us just talking to you?
Conversations are nice.
Okay, thanks.
Make us smart.
Well, in fact, to that point, one of the things I was gonna say, was when I talked earlier about the length of the meeting, one of the things we'd asked for is, you know how there are, yes, there's a spot for citizens' comment at the beginning of the meeting. I know that there are people within the committee who maybe have comments that they want to make, and what Cassandra said at the board meeting, that at the end of the board meeting, Darden says to the members of the board, do you have any comments, you know, or statements to make? And so what we would like to have, and you can see it toward the end of our itinerary for today, we talk about other business and member comments. And so at this point, I think, you know, if any of you have additional comments or statements that you want to make before, that will be the avenue for you to do that. Wanted to let you know that. I had one other piece of information, by the way. Julie on our committee has resigned from the committee because of, I guess, household constraints and so forth. So we're sorry to see her go. So we're down to 16 at this point, but we're looking to fill those additional spots. And so I think that's pretty much it for today. Does anyone have any comments that you, yes, sir?
He left already, but I really want to thank Ross and Mary Ann. For those of you who don't know, I work for a company called Career Source Pinellas. And we are in the process of working with a thing called Youth Build. These are kids from the south side of St. Pete, actually some are from Clearwater, who did not get a high school diploma. They're over the age of 18 and they're learning, they spend half the day going to school to get a GED and the other half doing construction. So for the first 3 weeks, we provided transportation for them. If they got accepted in, they were on their own. Well, a lot of these kids don't have a car. So I became the biggest bridge between PSTA and an organization that I thought it was just gonna be simple. It's like, oh, here, just fill out the transit disadvantaged rider form. No, all of a sudden me and her are on the phone 3-4 times a day. And we got, out of the 30 kids, I wanna say we had at least 20 approved for transit disadvantaged in a day.
Yay.
Ross did an amazing And thanks to Google Maps, they all came in and sat with me one at a time. They filled out a form. They said, I know my route is route 19 to boom, 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 and I have to catch it at this time, and if I'm late, it's my own fault.
Exactly.
And a lot of them had to walk from Tyrone Mall to this, if anybody remembers the Science Center in Pinellas County?
Oh, yes.
That's where I work. So they had to walk from Tyrone Mall, so you see all these little kids bouncing along 20 seconds. So thank you so much to Ross, his team, Mary Ann, for, you know, getting our young people involved and on the bus. Oh, and thank you for the smoking section at Grand Central. I walked in the other day, I was like, there's no smoking. This is wonderful.
Does it seem to you that people are doing it?
I'm sorry?
Does it seem like people are
Following
it?
Flying with the, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
It's great. There's a little red section over by where 34 goes on and off, and where I sit over on the 5 side, it's great.
So,
That's our breathe easy
It's
zone.
other places, yeah.
And it will
It's
happen.
very helpful. Thank you. Really, thank you.
Thanks for including the proposed future meeting subjects, I like this. And the second thing is, sometimes I have to be out of here like right at 5:30, so I'd just like it if we could get the meeting started right on time,
Right on
so that
time.
we can get out of
But
here.
today there was another meeting that was in here
I
earlier.
understand, but I just, I hate to walk out of the meeting while it's still going on, so.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's a real conundrum, because I know I want everyone to have a chance to ask their questions. I want everyone to have a chance to talk, but I know we have to sort of make sure that the time constraints work. So if we make all of the items that have to be approved, we make sure that those are done. And if you have to slip away, again, with the video will continue to run, so if you have any other comments from the follow-up, thank you. Any other comments today? Tanya.
What do I need to do to further help save the 7? That's all I gotta ask.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a poster. It's gonna say, save the 7, save the 7. Save the 7.
Copy on Mary Ann's.
I mean, do you want to appear before the board meeting next
I would-
Wednesday? It's not on the agenda, which means Tanya can technically,
Just, my name is Tanya.
oh, sorry.
No, it's okay, everybody says it wrong, so
Sorry,
it's
sorry.
okay. And I don't think anyone's ever actually heard it, just seen it.
Yeah. But you can, at the beginning of the meeting, make comment to the board and just say, I'd like to save the 7 shelters, and, it's up to
Well,
you.
and we'll send the track, we're writing a response to the city of Largo, and once we have that signed by Brad, we'll send it to you all, so you know our official position. And you
Thank
go
you.
forth and save the 7.
Yeah, I think facilitating some kind of discussion about making them into art, putting art or murals or somehow, maybe it's educating us on what the Largo mural program does.
It's being approved. I was reading the agenda on the way up the stairs today, and it's number 22 on the agenda. So pretty much $2,500 to create art, and it just needs to be on the right of way. And it's public art, so nothing residential. So my brain just continuously triggered. It's like, okay, well, that all seems to fall in line with the shelters, because you're, corporation, your business.
Well, we don't want to lose you. Are you really leaving in August to paint the shelters in New York?
I have 7 days to do it.
Oh, so you'll be
So
back. Oh.
yeah, and
Okay.
I have to have everything like designed and ready to go, and, yeah, so I'm already doing shelters in October in New York.
Just don't leave our committee.
Oh, no, I'm stuck here.
Other comments real quick. Dave?
Less than a minute. My good friend runs an Airbnb, and I was so proud to see that he put up a PSTA map for his guests. Most of them come from Europe and are not transit averse, and love that they jumped the trolley. He lives in Dunedin. That is so great. Something that I've never said before is that so many folks here are regular transit users, and I'm retired and an irregular transit user. When you said Google Maps, so that is always the thing that I do when I first put in a thing, and it shows how many minutes to get there. So this month I went to USF, I've been to Valrico, and I'm so hard trying to connect to a Pasco bus just to sort of like punch my ticket that I've done it, but I've not been able to.
I've done it.
What? And, yeah.
I've come all the way from Brooksville down 19 on a bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pasco's on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they absolutely are. They absolutely, I just have not been able to.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's not. So, I have a different transit experience, I think, than everyone else here. That's all.
Any other comments?
Is there any plans to further the snow smoking to other stations?
Yes. Yeah, this is a pilot, but it seems like we wanted to see if people would comply with it. We're working with Pinellas County Health Department
Yeah.
on it. But yeah, definitely try to expand it.
You remember the other day when it was real windy out?
Yeah.
Kind of cold? Well, I was at the Largo Transit Center, and there was 3 buses running, and all these people smoking, and the wind was blowing from the south, and no matter where you go, it was just gaggy. It was almost impossible. I had to leave. It was incredible. Diesel fuel and cigarette smoke.
And you're live to tell about it. Good for
Barely.
you.
Okay, our next meeting is April 18th, and to what Brad was saying, the board meeting is next Wednesday morning, and
29th.
the 9th?
29th.
It would be the 29th.
29th, okay, I was just looking at the
Board meeting.
No, the board meeting.
Oh, the board meeting's on the 29th.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
what I'm
that's- I'm sorry. And our meeting is next month, on the 18th. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this where we get the buffet?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all that help.
You're welcome. And when are they letting you?
31st is my last day.
Okay.
They were created in 2006.
No, I have you number right.
Just the exact same thing, the legislature opened up here.
Don't call me and let me know. I'll even be the campus secretary.
Like a regional transit agency.
That's Mary Ann's job.
Yeah.